Those who try to outshine dim their own light. These golden words have been said by a wise sage named Lao Tzu over 2,000 years ago. He knew the human quirk of getting caught in intellectual pursuits, being consumed by the need to control and push forward, that they lost sight of the natural way. Lao Tzu offered a profound solution, the concept of Wu Wei, the art of living in harmony with nature. But what exactly does that mean? And who was Lao Tzu, the thinker whose teachings continue to guide humanity today? In this video, you'll not only discover more about Lao Tzu, but also explore a new perspective, a way of life that just might transform you forever. Origin of Lao Tzu. We cannot precisely talk about the origin of Lao Tzu because there isn't much consensus, but this legendary Chinese philosopher lived in the 4th or 6th century BC. There is a debate over his real name. Some say it's Lao Tzu, and for others it's Lao Tzu. But whatever he was, the philosophical impact he left still echoes today. So who was Lao Tzu? He's often portrayed as a wise old record keeper working in the Zhou dynasty's royal court and a former contemporary of Confucius. The story goes that Lao Tzu became disillusioned about the Zhou court becoming increasingly corrupt. So he decided to leave civilization behind and rode off on a water buffalo toward the western edge of the Chinese Empire. Though he was dressed like a simple farmer, a border guard recognized his wisdom and asked him to write down his teachings. This, according to legend, became the Tao Te Ching, a sacred text in Chinese philosophy. After completing the work, Lao Tzu supposedly crossed the border and vanished from history without leaving any trace. Some say he opted for the life of a hermit. However, much like Homer in Western culture, there's a possibility that Lao Tzu might be more legend than reality. And just like his origin, his contribution to the Tao Te Ching is also in question. It's said that this book is a work of many authors who altered the original script with time. But honestly, it doesn't matter. What matters in the 21st century is the teachings of Lao Tzu that can completely change our perspective and even our lives. So what's so influential about his teachings that apply today, even after 2,000 years or so have gone by? Because Lao Tzu understood the path of life, the basic essence of how this universe works in Tao Te Ching, what he wrote is phenomenal. But for some, it's complicated, uncomfortable, lofty, or bizarre. Why? Because they failed to understand such a great concept, the essence of Taoism. To understand this centuries-old masterpiece, you need to understand Taoism or Taoism, because this is the fundamental concept of Lao Tzu's mindset. He was the creator of this concept that's still believed today. There are at least 20 million Taoists living around the world today, almost half of them in China and Taiwan. They practice meditation, chant scriptures, and worship a variety of gods and goddesses in temples. Taoists also make pilgrimages to 5 sacred mountains in eastern China to pray at the temples and absorb spiritual energy from these holy places, which are believed to be governed by immortals. But the teachings of Lao Tzu are not only religious, they're more philosophical and work for everyone, no matter their religion. So what is Taoist philosophy? It suggests living your life in harmony with Tao. Now, what is Tao? Tao means the way, but what exactly is the Tao? It's the fundamental force that guides the universe beyond our understanding. Our understanding is limited by our perceptions, so the true essence of the Tao remains a mystery. Lao Tzu explains this in the very beginning of the book. The Tao that can be spoken of is not the constant Tao. The name that can be named is not the constant name. The point here is, if something is inclusive, if something is universal, naming it or defining it reduces its inclusiveness. This might seem too complicated or confusing, but the irony is the essence of Lao Tzu's Taoism is simplicity and nothingness. In the book, you'll see recurring examples of how nature works through cycles and reversals. Things start from nothing, come into existence, and then fade back into nothingness. This is what the Tao means, a universal process that suggests staying in the background, keeping a low profile, and not pushing yourself to the forefront. The themes of Tao Te Ching. This was the basic idea of Taoism and the teachings of Lao Tzu. But Tao Te Ching contains 81 short verses with different themes, but the same idea of how to live a harmonious and meaningful life. Some of these themes include: Number 1. Wu Wei. The core theme of Tao Te Ching is Wu Wei, which means no action. But what does no action mean? To become lazy, sit idle, be indifferent, and see the world moving around us? No, it means to act in harmony with the Tao, or the natural way of things. It means to let go of excessive control and effort, and allow life to unfold naturally. Lao Tzu explains this as the Tao never does anything, yet through it all things are done. This means that by not forcing or controlling, but letting things happen in their own time, we can achieve the best results. But how can we achieve everything by not doing anything? Lao Tzu uses the metaphor of water to explain Wu Wei. Water is soft and flexible, yet it can erode rocks and shape mountains over time. Just as the water flows easily around obstacles, we can overcome challenges with grace by practicing Wu Wei. Lao Tzu also gives an example of intervention. He believed that a leader should avoid excessive control and let processes unfold on their own. If a ruler or manager constantly meddles, they only disrupt the natural order and make things worse. Just like a ruler shouldn't overly intervene, managers should trust their teams instead of micromanaging. Lao Tzu famously said, "Do you want to rule the world and control it? I don't think it can ever be done. The world is a sacred vessel and it cannot be controlled. You will only make it worse if you try." So Lao Tzu wants us to not try to make the world as we want it to be, let it be on its own road. We see nature. Does it run? No. Sunsets in the evening, trees shed leaves in autumn, flowers in spring. We sow the seeds, but it turns into a plant on its own time. So when nature doesn't rush and everything is accomplished, why do you try to divert the natural flow of life and make things worse? Number 2. Simplicity. Another overarching theme of Lao Tzu is simplicity, as said earlier. Lao Tzu encourages people to embrace simplicity and humility. But why? Because it leads to inner peace and contentment. Don't chase after wealth and power. Don't go for complications and worldly attractions. The short stick on the side is harder to break than the longer one. Tall structures have a greater chance of collapsing, and softness can absorb impacts, while hardness can turn into stiffness and break. So by sticking to the quieter, softer, and simpler aspects of life, you can avoid unnecessary risks. The idea is not to constantly strive or accumulate material things, which can lead to having more to lose if things go wrong. Think of an empty room. For you, an empty room is worthless, but if you look more closely, this empty room can carry whatever it needs. The central hub of the wheel is empty, but it turns the wheel. As Lao Tzu says, the value of a pot lies in its emptiness. So always choose the quiet side, the short side, the soft side. If you don't strive, stay out of harm's way, don't try to acquire, and then you'll not have anything to lose. The concept of Taoism is simple. Stay simple and open rather than constantly adding more. But this concept goes against Confucianism, which focuses on continual learning and building up knowledge. Taoism values the process of unlearning more than learning. Number 3. Yin and Yang. The third theme Lao Tzu explains in his book is the unity of opposites, the combination of yin and yang. In Chinese philosophy, yin and yang are two opposing yet complementary forces found in everything. Yin represents the calm, dark and feminine aspects, while yang symbolizes the energetic, light and masculine aspects. Together, they create a balanced harmony that's essential for the world to work properly. Now, you might ask why Lao Tzu talked about evil and why we should accept it, because the natural flow of the world contains both the good and the evil. If you expect this world to stay yin, you're disrupting the natural flow of the universe. If you're constantly seeking yang, you're defying the essence of Taoism. We need to embrace both yin and yang to find inner peace. He suggests that to truly understand life, we must accept that light and darkness, joy and sorrow are all part of the same whole. The The concept also relates to change and transformation. Just as night turns into day and winter into spring, life is always shifting between different states. Lao Tzu advises us to flow with these natural changes, accepting them with grace, applying Lao Tzu's Wu Wei in real life. So what we've learned so far is Lao Tzu wants us to be in an effortless state, in a zone where we seamlessly merge with the task at hand. A Taoist philosopher, Dr. Wu explains that Wu Wei involves a sense of emptiness or openness. She describes it as being able to observe and respond to the world from a place of clarity, free from personal ego and distortions. This isn't just about going with the flow, but about being courageous enough to shed our preconceived notions and interact with the world as it is. Lao Tzu called this state of being an uncarved block, a simpler, purer form of ourselves that's more in tune with the universe. But can it easily work in real life? The world where we constantly try to make things better. The world we want to use our intellectual self to make the world better, to save the world. It's hard. It's really hard. It's the state where we lose track of time and merge our actions with our awareness. It's like when a dancer becomes the dance, a poet becomes a poem, a writer dives into his own words. So what keeps us from reaching this state of flow? One major obstacle is the mental strain of trying. The word try often implies effort and pressure, which makes us anxious about our performance. We try to impress someone, but the reverse happens. We rehearse hundreds of times, we learn the lyrics by heart, and then mess up on stage. Why? It's not our knowledge or abilities. The problem is that we get in our way of life. Our mind tries to control the situation, to handle it with its intellect. This is where you lose. Lao Tzu suggests that if we let go of this mental strain, this uncarved block, and stop over-analyzing, we can return to a more natural and clear state of being. Meditation is a powerful way to practice Wu Wei. Sit quietly, calm your mind, and observe your thoughts without judgment. This way, you can clear mental clutter, connect with the present moment, and engage with life more harmoniously. Lao Tzu says not to go the extra mile to acquire something. Those who stand on tiptoes do not stand firmly. Those who rush ahead don't get very far. You don't need to scream to show that you exist. Stay low-key, be humble, and you'll achieve anything you want from this world. So this is all for today's video. Next time you're struggling, remember, going with the natural flow is often the best way to go.